Today's virtual lecture, we are going to be covering data manipulation in SQL. Hopefully you found the earlier virtual presentations helpful. Today we are going to focus, now that you've had an overview on SQL, on some other key items. For the example today, I'm going to speak a lot about movies and how you can use SQL in terms of both setting up a schema within a database, as well as using SQL to do searches off movies, movie stars, movie executives, directors, etc. As you've seen in previous classes, there's a number of different ways that we can map out how to put information in the database. First, setting up the tables. In this situation, we're going to be looking at 5 tables: movie, stars in, movie star, movie exec, and studio, in terms of how to best leverage this information. As you know from previous lectures, we focus a lot on the select from where statement. This allows us to identify what we are looking for, where we're looking for it from, and what conditions apply. Now, what we haven't really covered in great detail yet is the concept of how we go about sorting and ordering the results. So if I'm using an order by statement, for example, with this current select statement that's on screen, if I'm going with order by, it's going to take the rows that satisfy the condition and going to order them. By default, it does in ascending order, but you can also order in a number of different varieties. For example, if I'm using the movie table and I want to do a select all from the movies where the studio name in Disney equals 1990, what that is going to do is pull me back all of those specific year movies from Disney. Now, what you will then look and see that you can do, besides just select all, different items, as long as those items are with attributes within the databases of the tables identified. For example, a select title and length from movie where the studio name is Disney in the year 1990. This is fairly simple for you all to do in Microsoft Access, and we'll be doing that over the next several classes. One of the concepts when you get deeper into SQL is the idea of distinct, and how you separate when you have duplicate information and what you can do to help remove the duplicates. Essentially, when you're looking at duplicates, the keyword distinct will allow you to, for example, show the number of distinct professors Loyola has. Now, I have a listing of courses, so I'm teaching 2 courses, but there's one professor named Finnegan. When we get into different types of SQL, you'll be looking at both wildcards and comparisons. You'll want to be able to show things like greater than, less than, or equal to. You want to be able to use any kind of matching strings or items where you're looking at having wildcards. For example, if you want to see how many movies like Star Troopers, Star Wars, and Star Trek have the word star, or start with the word star in their title, you would use the percentage wildcard as shown in the SQL statement. So for this example, you're going to be selecting title from the movie, where the title like, and then you'll see star and the percentage sign. Like is what you were going to use in terms of looking for patterns. So it's going to pull the information where it contains star as the first component. So anytime you see the wildcard, you'll put the wildcard right where you want to do the separator. So it's going to look for movies just starting with star. Now, as I mentioned before, if you're looking at doing an ordering from an output perspective, by default you're going to be sorting in ascending order. However, if you want to, you can order by descending order. You just have to clarify that within your SQL. So let's use another example. Let's find all movies produced by Universal in 1973 and return their title and length. Sort movies in ascending order by length, then by title. So if you look at this SQL, you're selecting title and length for a movie, and now you'll see the where and an and statement. So where studio name equals Universal and year equals 1973, because it's looking for those two conditions. And then in order by length and title. So you'll see, since you wanted to order first by length and then by title, that we are going with length first and then title. And since you want ascending order, you're not adding any additional components. Now, if I'm going through from a SQL perspective and looking to rename attributes, you'll follow a similar component, but you'll need to use the keyword as. Make a note of that for your following exam. If you're going to rename your attributes, you're going to need to use the keyword as within your select clause. As an example, if I want to rename the title of the movie, I will, for certain movies, I can go in and select the title, movie title, length movie title for a movie where studio name equals Disney, year equals 1990, and then rename that movie to show the new title that I wish to change. One of the items that we will go into greater detail on is how to look at finding additional conditions from a from perspective. For example, what am I going to do if I want to find the name of a producer from the Star Wars table? First, in terms of doing that, I'm going to prefix the relation name. So you've seen that in terms of how I tend to like to label my fields. So in terms of having the information, if I'm pulling from multiple tables, I'll need to classify. So if I'm selecting from the movie star table and the movie executive table, they're named fields, I'll want to do a select moviestar.name and select movieexec.name, and then I identify both tables. So from movie star and movie executive, where the address equals the address. Essentially, if we're looking at which movie stars and executives live together, this pulls you up the information showing that Jane Fonda and Ted Turner live in the same address. Continuing along those, you can look at it from a multiple variable perspective. So if I want to find two stars with the same address, I would still leverage using the table name and the attribute name from the star 1 and star 2 table where the address equals the address. For example, showing how an address, this is an older slide, Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger when they shared the same address. Now, if we rewrote the query, would it still get the same information? No, because if we rewrote the query, you would see it both as a result because we were not specifying one versus the other. Now, if I'm looking at row variables within select and where, or tuple variables for that example, it will also pull information from a relation perspective. This allows us to set up what are referred to as SEP operators, where we look at unions, intersects, and how to eliminate duplicates. So if I'm looking for something where I can find the names and addresses of movie stars who are not also movie executives, I would have much different SQL. And these are sample queries which we'll be covering later in this class. So if I want to go through and get into specific items, we'll talk about subqueries, which are the topic of part 2 of this virtual lecture. Thank you.